Chapter 15, Riderwood. Within 2 months after we sold, the housing market hit bottom and people couldn't give away their homes. Several factors contributed to our move to Riderwood. We had observed Diana's parents deteriorate and wanted them to move to a retirement community where they could have assisted living help. Diana's father would not hear of it. Although in rapidly failing health in his last few years, he refused to admit outwardly the state of his diminishing physical and mental condition. He and my mother-in-law, Shirley, lived in Ogunquit, Maine, during the summer months, and in Green Acres, West Palm Beach, Florida, during the late fall and winter months. Every spring, they went to Israel to celebrate Passover with Meir and his family. It was a big worry for the family and difficult for Diana and her brothers. Harry died at the age of 95 while visiting Israel in 2006. He was buried in Jerusalem. Getting back to our decision to move to Riderwood, we didn't want to be a burden or worry to our children as we aged. Riderwood seemed to be an ideal solution for us and the family. It was located proximate to 2 of our children. Jimmy lived in Washington, D.C., and Rachel lived in Tacoma Park. Both were within a half hour or less of Riderwood. Diana was still recovering from the trauma of Daniel and Pistol Pete, and life at Riderwood would be less isolated and less stressful and demanding than in West Virginia. We moved into Riderwood in July of 2004. It represented a significant change in lifestyle for me. There were no more wild rose brushes for me to clear. I could no longer chop and stack firewood. Driving my beloved John Deere tractor mower to clear the constantly growing field grasses was a thing of the past. There were no deer greeting us across 2.5 acres of cleared meadowland every evening. We could no longer look out our bedroom windows and see red tailhawks circling overhead and rabbits scampering about the grounds. There was no nature conservancy in which we could take long walks along its cedar tree-wooded paths and view the Potomac River flowing far below from high above its riparian cliffs. When we first moved to West Virginia, there were no houses that we could see on our dirt-packed, unpaved street. We enjoyed the solitude. A year before we moved, all that changed. 3 houses were under construction on our street, including one across the cul-de-sac from our log home. Housing developments along Scrabble Road were beginning to spring up seemingly everywhere. The character of our neighborhood was being dramatically altered. My back was beginning to give me trouble, which made doing the chores, such as mowing and stacking wood, more burdensome than it ought to have been. The nearest store was about 4 to 5 miles away over narrow country roads. This necessitated frequent trips to keep our food in stock. Since Diana's bout with depression, she had lost her enthusiasm for cooking, and both our health concerns and welfare contributed to our decision to leave West Virginia. So we made the decision to move. I was 72 and Diana was 70 when we moved. Aside from some back problems, we were in relatively good health. We moved into our 4th floor 2-bedroom, 2 full bathrooms, and 800 square foot apartment at Riderwood. It was small compared to the 2,500 plus square foot log home we left behind, but it was comfortable with a breakfast bar separating the kitchen from the dining and living area. Large windows and a small outdoor porch area, which was accessible from the living room, overlooked a beautiful wooded quadrangle with a mixture of tree species that displayed a phantasmagoria of multicolored leaves in the fall. On many a fall morning, I'd sit on the porch sipping coffee and reading the Washington Post and doing the crossword puzzle. It was a pleasant and relaxing way of life. Cooking meals was no longer a chore for Diana, as we had 5 restaurants on the premises from which to choose, and our monthly fee entitled each of us to 1 free meal a day at any of the 5 restaurants. We usually ate breakfast at the breakfast counter in our apartment and had a sandwich or light lunch at home also. We almost always dined at one of the restaurants for supper. No cooking, no dishes, no cleanup. It was, and still is, an easy and less stressful lifestyle. In April of 2006, Diana's father died suddenly in Israel. She and her brother Jerry flew over to the funeral. It was a very stressful time for her. In September, Diana developed breast cancer and underwent surgery and both chemotherapy and radiation treatment. These treatments lasted until February of 2007 and left Diana without much energy. She lost all her hair as a result of the chemotherapy, but it did grow back by late spring. I drove her to her radiation treatments every day for 7 weeks. We also made several trips to her oncologist and for x-rays of various types. We were very supportive of one another throughout the ordeal and realized how fortunate we were to have each other and love one another. Meanwhile, while all this was happening, we were heavily involved in the settlement of her father's estate. Jerry, who is a certified financial planner, did the bulk of the estate work and relieved both Diana and her brother Martin of that burden. Diana's father left a large estate, several $1,000,000. One of the main assets of the estate was the majestic Regency Motel bordering the town of Ogunquit, Maine. Another was his ownership of 12 condominiums at the Lookout on Israel Head in Ogunquit. The Majestic was sold, and each of his children and grandchildren received $125,000 from the proceeds of the sale. Also, each of his 3 children, Diana, Martin, and Jerry, received ownership of a condominium at the Lookout in Ogunquit. We acquired a 4th-floor, 2-bedroom, 3-bath condo overlooking the swimming pool and with a view from the porch of the ocean. Diana and I spent 7 weeks there the first summer of 2007. More about this later. After Diana's father died, we moved Diana's mother, Shirley, age 94 at the time, in with us at Riderwood until we could get her into an assisted living apartment at Renaissance Gardens, which is located on the Riderwood campus. On August 17th of 2006, she moved into Renaissance Gardens. Diana visits her almost daily, and we often take her to dinner and off-campus to restaurants or to visit Rachel and Henry. She is a concern to us as she is in very frail physical condition but mentally quite sharp. She adapted relatively well to Renaissance Gardens, but we decided to take her back to Maine with us in the summer of 2007 to her house on 111 Meadowlark Lane in Ogunquit. We hired a wonderful caretaker for her by the name of Jean Darnell and flew her in from Florida to live with Shirley over the summer while she was in Maine. On August 5th, 2007, we celebrated Shirley's 95th birthday by having a party at the Lookout. It was a wonderful affair attended by the following family members: Diana and I, Mayor and Nava, Jerry and Susan, Kenny, Michael and Joshua Guerin, Mickey and Sharon Weiner. Other guests included Nancy and Ken Mills, the Majestic managers and caretakers for Shirley and Harry for many years, Jean Darnell, Shirley's caretaker that summer, and Stuart and Randy Rubenstein, friends of Jerry's and neighbors at the Lookout where Diana and I were staying that summer.